Hey guys, tonight we're slipping on a pair of imaginary archaeology boots and tiptoeing into a 2,000-year-old bakery. Picture this, you're crouching in a sun-baked trench outside Rome, brushing away dirt that crumbles like day-old bread. The air smells like dust and, is that toasted sesame? Wait, no, probably just your stomach growling at the thought of dessert. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Maybe leave a comment telling me where you're tuning in from and what time it is where you are. I'm curious if someone's listening at 3 a.m. in Tokyo while someone else is sipping tea at sunset in Vancouver. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. Your trowel scrapes against something hard, probably another Roman coin, but no, wait, that's curved clay. You dig around the edge, and a half-collapsed oven emerges, its bricks stained black from centuries of fires. But look closer at the ash layer, those tiny brown specks aren't dirt. The archaeologist next to you gasps, okay, maybe she just sneezes from the dust, but those are sesame seeds. Carbon dated to 78 AD, they're stuck in the oven's cracks like crumbs in a toaster. Roman bakeries like this one weren't just for bread. By the 1st century AD, wealthy citizens demanded sweets, and sesame was a luxury ingredient. Pliny the Elder actually complained about how much Romans spent on those tiny Indian seeds. Did you know sesame seeds were once used as medicine? Ancient Egyptians ground them into paste for toothaches, and here in Rome, doctors thought they cured bad breath. Imagine walking into a bakery and asking for a sesame cookie to fix my halitosis, please. Historians argue whether this oven belonged to a commercial bakery or a wealthy villa. The sesame seeds could mean it was a fancy dessert spot, or maybe the baker just really loved sesame. Some say the oven's size suggests it fed a small community, but others point to the sesame's rarity as proof of elite clients. As you brush more ash away, the oven's floor reveals a faint pattern, maybe from a baking tray. Wait, is that a fossilized crumb? No, just your imagination. Time to stand up and stretch, your knees are creaking like an old door. In the next section, we'll follow those sesame seeds back to their Indian homeland. How did they end up in a Roman oven? Stay tuned, or, well, keep lying down. It's bedtime, after all. Your imaginary archaeology gloves are still dusted with Roman ash, but now we're swapping them for a camel's reins. The Silk Road stretches ahead like a threadbare carpet, dotted with caravan camps where merchants haggle over bolts of silk and tiny sacks of sesame. Let us trace this grain's 4,000-mile journey from its birthplace in the Indus Valley to that Roman oven. You're standing in modern-day Pakistan, around 2000 BC. The air smells like monsoon rain and freshly tilled soil. Farmers here are some of the first to domesticate sesame, picking its spiky pods that burst like popcorn when ripe. Genetic studies show these ancient sesame plants had darker seeds than today's, adapted to survive the region's scorching summers. Scholars think early Harappan civilizations used sesame oil for lamps and religious rituals before anyone thought to bake it into desserts. Now climb onto that camel, try not to startle it with your modern sense of personal space. The caravan is headed northwest, toward the Zagros Mountains. Here Persian traders didn't just carry sesame as cargo, they used the seeds to barter for horses. In 5th century BC records, one scribe complains about paying 30 measures of sesame for a lame donkey. Imagine haggling over a bag of seeds like they're gold coins. As we cross the Euphrates, the desert wind picks up. Did sesame reach the Mediterranean via land or sea? Some historians point to Sumerian cuneiform tablets mentioning sesamum from Malaha, likely India, shipped via the Persian Gulf. Others argue that nomadic herders carried it overland through Central Asia, tucking seeds into their saddlebags. The truth is probably a mix, like a good dessert recipe. Your camel stops at a Parthian trading post. Look over there, merchants are weighing sesame on bronze scales, their fingers stained from counting the tiny seeds. A scroll unrolls to reveal a 1st century AD recipe: sesame mixed with honey, pressed into discs, and stamped with the face of Emperor Augustus. Wait, is that a dessert or a coin? Historians debate that too. Some say those sesame discs were early currency, while others swear they were just very fancy cookies. The sun is setting behind the Taurus Mountains. Time to unload the camel and build a fire. In the next section, we'll jump east to China's Han Dynasty, where emperors were eating sesame cakes so fancy they'd make a Roman patrician jealous. But first, let your mind wander to those ancient traders. Did any of them ever drop a sack of sesame in the desert, letting the seeds sprout like tiny stars in the sand? Maybe. Now close your eyes and imagine the caravan moving forward, one slow step at a time. Hey guys, tonight we're trading in our Roman archaeology boots for a pair of silk slippers, specifically, the kind that might be padded across the floors of Han Dynasty China. Picture this: you're standing in the shadow of the Great Wall, but instead of soldiers, you're surrounded by the sweet scent of roasted sesame. Wait, no, that's probably just the imaginary food in your head. Let's fix that. So, before you get too cozy, take a second to like the video and subscribe if you're enjoying these bedtime history lessons. Maybe drop a comment telling me what snack you're craving right now. I'm personally stuck on these imaginary Han Dynasty sesame cakes. Now, dim the lights, maybe grab a pillow for your back, and let's step into the kitchen of Emperor Wu's palace. Your hands are covered in rice flour as you mix a batch of dough. The head chef glares at you. Apparently, in 100 BC, messing up imperial desserts is a bigger offense than burning toast. But look at these ingredients: tiny sesame seeds imported from Central Asia, honey so thick it drips like molasses, and a pinch of salt that's worth its weight in gold. The Han Dynasty, 206 BC, 220 AD was when sesame first became a culinary star in China. Royal records mention honey sesame cakes served at banquets, and archaeologists have found clay models of sesame grinders in noble tombs. Confucius himself might be snacked on these, though he probably didn't drop crumbs on his robes. Did you know sesame was called huma in ancient China, meaning barbarian hemp? The Han emperors thought anything from beyond the Great Wall was barbarian, even delicious seeds. Also, these cakes weren't just for eating. Some scholars think they were used in ancestor worship. Imagine your great-great-grandparents being bribed with sesame desserts. Historians argue about whether these sesame cakes were sweet or savory. Some translations of Han recipes mention salty sesame pastries, while others swear by honey. There's even a debate about the baking method. Did they use clay ovens or steam them? The oldest surviving recipe is so vague, it's like reading a fortune cookie: mix seeds with sweet stuff, bake until golden. Enjoy. As you shape the dough into little rounds, the chef demonstrates how to press sesame seeds into the surface. Like this, he grunts, his fingers sticky with honey. You try to copy, but your cake ends up looking more like a lumpy rock than imperial cuisine. Good thing this is a bedtime story, no emperors to disappoint here. Wait, did you hear that? It's the sound of court musicians warming up for tonight's banquet. You'd better hurry, those sesame cakes need to be perfect. In the next section, we'll travel west to Persia, where sesame desserts get a fancy upgrade with rosewater. Trust me, it's like going from Han Dynasty takeout to a medieval fine dining experience. Hey guys, tonight we're ditching those Persian leather shoes for a pair of wooden clogs. Specifically, the kind that might be clattered across a Roman villa's mosaic floors. Picture this, it's 150 AD, and you're crouched in a sunlit atrium, brushing crumbs off a marble table. Wait, those aren't just any crumbs, they're tiny, toasted sesame seeds stuck in the grout. The villa's owner would have a fit if he saw this, but lucky for you, he's too busy discussing philosophy with his buddies. So, before you get too comfy, take a second to like the video and subscribe if these bedtime history tales are helping you unwind. Maybe leave a comment telling me what your favorite cookie is. I'm over here imagining these ancient Roman sesame snacks, which might taste like a cross between a shortbread and a pretzel. Now, dim the lights, maybe fluff your pillow, pretend it's a pile of Roman wool, and let us step into the villa's kitchen. Your hands are covered in olive oil as you mix flour, honey, and a generous handful of sesame seeds. The cook glares at you from behind a stack of clay baking trays. Don't skimp on the seeds. The mistress insists they must crunch like pebbles underfoot. You roll your eyes. Apparently, in ancient Rome, sesame cookies were as much about texture as taste. Roman cookbooks from the 1st and 2nd centuries AD mention sesame wafers as popular desserts. Apicius, the famous gourmet, even has a recipe for cookies made with sesame, honey, and pine nuts, baked until golden and crisp. These weren't just snacks, they were served at the end of banquets, like a fancy modern-day petit four. Did you know archaeologists have found sesame cookies in Roman latrines? Okay, not exactly cookies, but fossilized crumbs in bathroom drains. Some scholars think slaves might be thrown leftover snacks down the pipes, but others have a wilder theory. Maybe these cookies were actually cleaning tools. Imagine scrubbing a toilet with a sesame wafer. Talk about a rough texture. Here's the big debate. Were these sesame snacks really meant for eating? Some archaeologists point to villa kitchen ruins filled with baking trays and sesame residue, arguing they were everyday desserts. But others note that sesame seeds have been found in strange places like underfloor mosaics or in burial sites. Did Romans use them as decorations, or even as offerings to the gods? One scholar famously suggested they were edible floor art, though most historians think that's a stretch, like stretching dough too thin. As you place the cookie dough on a hot stone slab, the cook mutters about the mistress's latest obsession. Last week it was poppy seeds, now it's sesame. Next she'll want cookies made of gold flakes. You stifle a laugh, imagining a Roman Instagram influencer posting sesame cookie goals. Wait, hear that? It's the sound of the villa's owner approaching, his sandals clacking on the mosaic. You quickly brush the sesame crumbs into your apron. No need for a dramatic Roman punishment over a few stray seeds. In the next section, we'll follow those seeds beyond the villa walls, into the shady world of Silk Road trade scandals. How did sesame become currency for bribes? Spoiler alert, it involves corrupt officials and very sneaky merchants. Stay relaxed, or, well, keep lying down. It's bedtime, after all. Hey guys, tonight we're lacing up a pair of worn leather trading boots. Careful, the soles are patched with camel hide, and there's a suspicious stain that might be sesame oil. Picture this, it's 500 AD, and you're standing at the Khyber Pass, squinting through dust as a caravan of camels groans past. Their saddlebags aren't just full of silk and spices. Somewhere in there, hidden under piles of saffron, are sacks of sesame seeds that could buy you a small village. Or, bribe a corrupt border official. So, before you sink into your pillow, take a second to like the video and subscribe if these Silk Road detours are keeping your mind off tomorrow's to-do list. Maybe leave a comment telling me what illegal snack you'd smuggle across a border. Personally, I'd risk it for a box of those Han Dynasty sesame cakes. Now, dim the lights, maybe imagine the hum of distant camel bells, and let us step into the shady world of Silk Road trade. Your palms are sweaty as you approach the customs checkpoint. The guard, a burly man with a turban that looks like it's hiding at least 3 secret pockets, raises an eyebrow. What's in the carts? You clear your throat, trying to sound casual. Just cotton and dates. Definitely no valuable sesame seeds. He snorts, tapping his spear on a crate labeled dates, but you know it's filled with the tiny brown gold. Sesame was so valuable on the Silk Road that it sometimes functioned as currency. In 7th century China, records mention merchants paying taxes in sesame seeds, and in Central Asia, it was used to barter for horses, which were almost as precious as the seeds themselves. One Persian trader even wrote that a sack of sesame can buy a wife in some villages, though we're pretty sure that's an exaggeration. Or is it? Did you know there's a 10th century Chinese story about a merchant who bribed a governor with sesame-flavored gold? Okay, maybe not actual gold, but sesame candy shaped like ingots. The governor was so impressed, he gave the merchant a monopoly on sesame trade. Talk about a sweet deal, literally. Also, some caravans hid sesame seeds in hollow camel bones to avoid customs duties. Imagine a guard patting down a camel and finding seeds in its femur. Historians argue about how widespread sesame was as a bribe. Some point to legal codes that ban seed-based corruption, while others say these were just isolated cases. There's even a debate about whether sesame was more valuable than spices like pepper in certain regions. One scholar claims that in 8th century Baghdad, a pound of sesame was worth half a pound of silver, but others say that's as credible as a used car salesman promising a camel that never gets thirsty. As the guard pretends to inspect your dates, he coughs pointedly and mutters, "It's a hot day. My throat could use something sweet." You nod, slipping a small pouch of sesame seeds into his palm. He smiles, showing teeth stained from chewing betel nut, and waves you through. Go on, then. Mind the bandits, they love sesame almost as much as I do. You hurry the caravan forward, heart pounding. Was that pouch worth more than the silk in your carts? Probably. But in the world of Silk Road trade, sometimes the smallest seeds carry the biggest risks. Wait, hear that? It's the distant rumble of bandit hooves. No, just your air conditioner kicking on. Phew. In the next section, we'll leave the dusty roads and enter a medieval monastery, where monks are about to turn sesame desserts into cough medicine. Spoiler alert, their patients probably coughed more from the taste than the illness. Stay relaxed, or just keep pretending to be a sneaky trader. It's bedtime, after all. Hey guys, tonight we're swapping those leather trading boots for a scratchy woolen monk's robe. Hope you don't mind the itch, or the faint smell of incense and old cabbage. Picture this, it's 1250 AD, and you're tiptoeing into a drafty monastery kitchen, where the air smells like boiling herbs and something surprisingly sweet. Wait, is that sesame being ground with honey? The abbot would have a fit if he knew the brothers are using precious spices for dessert. No, wait, this is medicine, I swear. So, before you pull the blanket up too high, take a second to like the video and subscribe if these medieval detours are keeping your mind off modern problems. Maybe leave a comment telling me what weird cure you've heard of personally. I'd take sesame cough drops over whatever the monks are about to make. Now, dim the lights, maybe pretend that creaky floorboard is a monastery door, and let us step into the world of medieval medical sweets. Your hands are freezing as you grind sesame seeds in a stone mortar. The head monk, Brother Oswald, glares at you from behind a cloud of mint steam. Don't grind too fine. The texture must tickle the throat to induce healing, or something like that. You bite your tongue, pretty sure tickling throats isn't in any modern medical textbook, but in 13th century England, anything goes. Medieval monks were the original health food gurus, using sesame in remedies for coughs, sore throats, and even melancholy. Books like Bald's Leech Book, a 10th century medical text, recommend mixing sesame with honey and garlic for chest complaints, while later recipes add herbs like thyme or marjoram. They believed sesame's oily nature soothed inflamed tissues, kind of like ancient Vicks VapoRub, but with seeds. Did you know some medieval recipes called for adding snail slime to sesame cough drops? Yep, Brother Oswald just dumped a bowl of slimy garden snails into the mixture. Their mucus cools the humors, he explains, as you try not to gag. Also, monks sometimes carved tiny crosses into sesame sweets, thinking holy symbols would boost their healing powers. Imagine a cough drop that's part medicine, part religious artifact. Historians argue about whether these sesame remedies actually worked. Some point to sesame's real health benefits, high in antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds, while others say the honey did most of the soothing. There's also debate over whether monks were just using sweets to trick patients into taking medicine, like parents hiding veggies in brownies. One scholar even suggests the sesame cough drop trend was more about monastery marketing than actual medicine. As you stir the slimy, sesame honey goop, Brother Oswald adds a pinch of saffron, way too expensive for a mere cough remedy, but he's convinced it adds divine potency. You secretly dip a pinky and nearly spit it out. It tastes like sweet dirt with a side of snail slime. No wonder patients coughed more after taking this. They were trying to get the taste out of their mouths. Wait, hear that? It's the monastery bell ringing for vespers, mixing with the sound of a monk in the next room hacking up a lung. Maybe he needs a double dose of sesame cough drops, or just a glass of water to wash the slime down. In the next section, we'll hop on a camel, maybe the same one from the Silk Road, and head to Africa, where archaeologists have found forgotten sesame varieties in Ethiopian caves. How did these seeds end up in a continent far from the Silk Road? Spoiler alert, it involves ancient trade routes even older than the ones we've been following. Stay relaxed, or just keep pretending you're a monk avoiding snail slime. It's bedtime, after all. Hey guys, tonight we're trading in that scratchy monk's robe for a pair of woven grass sandals. Watch your step. The cave floor is slick with bat guano, which surprisingly smells, not like sesame. Picture this, it's 2019 AD, but you're crouched in a 3,000-year-old Ethiopian cave, brushing away stalagmite dust to reveal a pottery shard caked in something brown. Wait, is that Sesame? The archaeologist next to you lets out a whoop, or maybe it's a sneeze from the dust, but those tiny seeds are about to rewrite history. So, before you get too comfy, take a second to like the video and subscribe if these African detours are keeping your brain from overthinking. Maybe leave a comment telling me what animal you'd least want to share a cave with. I'm voting for the bats, unless they're into sesame too. Now, dim the lights, maybe imagine the drip drip of cave water in the background, and let us step into the world of forgotten African sesame. Your headlamp flickers over cave walls painted with stick figures herding antelopes. But look closer at the dirt floor, layers of ash hide dozens of tiny sesame seeds, carbon dated to 1000 BC. That's 2000 years before sesame showed up in Roman ovens. The archaeologist kneels beside you, muttering, "These aren't like any modern sesame. Their shells are thicker, almost like tiny armors." Ethiopia is one of the world's oldest sesame hotspots, with evidence of domesticated seeds dating to 1000 BC. Unlike Asian sesame, which was bred for oil, these African varieties had thicker husks, maybe to survive the scorching savanna. Ancient Egyptians actually imported Ethiopian sesame for their embalming rituals, though we're pretty sure it was for scent, not mummifying snacks. Did you know Ethiopian tribes once used sesame in rainmaking ceremonies? They degrind the seeds with honey and smear the paste on sacred stones, believing the sweet scent would attract clouds. Also, in some villages, sesame was given as a wedding gift. Brides would receive a jar of toasted seeds, symbolizing fertility. Imagine getting a mason jar of sesame at your wedding instead of a toaster. Historians argue about whether African sesame was independently domesticated or imported from Asia. Some DNA studies suggest Ethiopian varieties are genetically distinct, while others claim traders brought seeds from India across the Red Sea. There's even a debate about why these thick-husked seeds fell out of favor. Did Asian varieties taste better, or were they just easier to process? It's a nutty mystery, literally. As you scoop a handful of ancient seeds into a plastic bag, the archaeologist points to a cave painting of a person carrying a basket labeled in modern interpretation sesame. Maybe they used it in porridge, she says, or ground it into a paste for wounds. You imagine an ancient Ethiopian warrior applying sesame bandages after a battle. Talk about a natural first aid kit. Wait, hear that? It's the flutter of bat wings overhead, followed by the distant rumble of a tour group. Time to pack up these tiny time capsules. Who knows what else is hidden in these caves? In the next section, we'll hop on a magic carpet or maybe a very tired camel and head to 8th century China, where sesame pastries cause a city-wide shortage. Spoiler alert, the Tang dynasty had a serious sesame obsession, and it's about to get as wild as a modern-day cronut craze. Stay relaxed, or just keep pretending you're an archaeologist avoiding bat poop. It's bedtime, after all. Hey guys, tonight we're trading those grass sandals for a pair of silk brocade slippers. Watch out, the pointed toes might catch on the bustling streets of 8th century Chang'an. Picture this, you're elbowing through a crowd of merchants, monks, and ladies in flowing robes, all pushing toward a stall wafting the scent of fried sesame. The air is thick with the sound of hawkers shouting, "Fresh was hung bing. Sesame pastries hot from the oven." But wait, that line looks longer than a Tang dynasty poem. So, before you get too comfy, take a second to like the video and subscribe if these ancient food fads are making your midnight snacks seem boring. Maybe leave a comment telling me what modern food craze you'd compare this to. I'm thinking cronuts, but with more historical drama. Now, dim the lights, maybe imagine the distant clang of temple bells, and let's dive into the sesame pastry madness of the Tang dynasty. Your sleeves are getting tugged by a vendor with a grease-stained apron. Buy 3, get 1 free. These pastries made Empress Yang herself swoon. You raise an eyebrow. Pretty sure imperial ladies didn't TQ for street food, but the smell is hard to resist. Toasted sesame, malt sugar, and a hint of lard that would make a modern nutritionist faint. The Tang dynasty 618 to 907 AD saw sesame desserts explode in popularity, thanks to Silk Road trade and a booming middle class. Poems from the era describe sesame flour cakes was hung bing as the must-have snack, and archaeological finds show ceramic models of sesame grinders in wealthy tombs. Even the imperial court had a sesame pastry bureau to supply the palace. Talk about a government job we fight for today. Did you know Tang dynasty sesame pastries had weird names like cloud dragon sesame balls and phoenix tail sesame rolls? Some recipes called for stuffing them with salted duck egg yolks. Sweet and savory before it was cool. Also, street vendors used sesame paste as a glue to stick nuts onto pastries. Imagine using Nutella as craft supplies. Historians argue about whether the city-wide shortages were real or just poetic exaggeration. Some point to Tang records complaining about sesame hoarding, while others say it was more like a trendy shortage, similar to modern avocado toast scares. There's even a debate about whether the Empress Wu's obsession with sesame pastries actually influenced agricultural policy. Did she order farmers to plant more sesame to feed her sweet tooth? As you finally reach the front of the line, the vendor slaps a hot pastry into your hand. It's so oily, it leaves a translucent mark on the paper just like the Tang Dynasty version of a grease-stained Instagram photo. You take a bite, and sesame seeds rain down onto your robe, crunchy, sweet, and slightly salty, like a pretzel dipped in honey. No wonder people were willing to wait hours for this. Wait, hear that? It's the sound of city guards shouting. Apparently, someone started a riot over the last batch of pastries. You duck into an alley, munching your pastry while watching merchants argue over sesame prices. A scholar passes by, shaking his head. This sesame craze is worse than the tea obsession. In the next section, we'll hop on a Venetian merchant's ship after washing the sesame grease off our hands and head west, where sailors are about to smuggle sesame across deserts. How did they keep the seeds from getting stolen by pirates or hungry camels? Spoiler alert, it involves hollowed out logs and very sneaky accounting. Stay relaxed, or just keep pretending you're a Tang citizen avoiding pastry riots. It's bedtime, after all. Hey guys, tonight we're swapping those Tang Dynasty silk slippers for a pair of salt-stained sailor's boots. Watch your step on the deck, that tar patch is stickier than the sesame honey we've been talking about. Picture this, it's 1320 AD, and you're crouching in the hold of a Venetian trading ship, listening to the creak of wooden beams as they carry more than just silk and spices. Somewhere in those barrels labeled olive oil, there's a secret cargo that could make you richer than Marco Polo. So, before you pull the blanket up too high, take a second to like the video and subscribe if these smuggling stories are giving you low-key heist vibes. Maybe leave a comment telling me what mundane object you'd hide valuables in. I'm thinking a hollowed out book, but these Venetians had better ideas. Now, dim the lights, maybe imagine the gentle rocking of the ship or just your fan vibrating, and let's dive into the sneaky world of Venetian sesame smugglers. Your hands are oily from prying open a barrel marked Genos olives. Instead of brine, you're met with a waft of toasted sesame, hundreds of pounds of the stuff, packed tight with sawdust. The captain, a grizzled man with a beard full of sea salt, whispers, "Don't let the customs officials see this." In Cairo, a pound of sesame is worth its weight in, well, not gold, but close enough. Venetian merchants dominated Silk Road trade in the Middle Ages, sneaking goods like sesame across Muslim-controlled territories. They used false invoices, hidden compartments, and even bribed officials to avoid hefty tariffs. Marco Polo's own diary mentions traders who turned sesame into silver, though he probably exaggerated the profits like a medieval influencer inflating their follower count. Did you know Venetians hid sesame in hollowed-out logs? They carve out the centers, stuff them with seeds, then seal them with pitch. Some even built false bottoms in their carts, where sesame would mingle with donkey feed. Talk about hiding in plain sight. Also, they had a code word for sesame, white gold. Imagine overhearing a merchant say, "I need to restock my white gold," and thinking he's talking about jewelry. Historians argue about how widespread sesame smuggling really was. Some point to Venetian tax records showing suspiciously low sesame imports, while others say the seeds were legal but heavily taxed. There's even a debate about whether smuggling helped spread sesame recipes. Did Venetians introduce sesame desserts to Europe by hiding them in cargo, or was it all about profit? The answer is as murky as the Adriatic Sea. As you repack the barrel, the captain shows you a ledger with two sets of numbers, the official inventory and the real one, where sesame is listed as medicinal herbs. The Sultan's inspectors love herbs, he winks, scratching his nose with an ink-stained finger. You imagine a customs official sniffing a bag of sesame and nodding, "Ah, yes, very medicinal." Wait, hear that? It's the sound of approaching oars, probably just a fishing boat, but the captain tenses like a cat spotting a mouse. Time to nail the barrel shut and pretend to polish a crate of genuine Genos olives. In the next section, we'll abandon the ship for a horse-drawn cart and head to the Americas, where Spanish explorers might ve mistaken sesame for magic beans. Spoiler alert, their misunderstanding involves a Maya ritual and a lot of confused journal entries. Stay relaxed, or just keep pretending you're a Venetian sailor with a sesame-stained conscience. It's bedtime, after all. Hey guys, tonight we're trading those salt-stained sailor-s boots for a pair of woven Maya bark sandals. Try not to trip over the roots, because the jungle floor here is as slippery as a Venetian smuggler's tongue. Picture this, it's 1524 AD, and you're crouching behind a palm tree, watching as a Maya shaman sprinkles something tiny over a stone altar. The air smells like incense, rotting fruit, and, "Is that sesame?" The Spanish conquistador beside you mutters, "Es magia. Those must be magic beans." Spoiler alert, he's about to write the weirdest journal entry since Marco Polo claimed he saw unicorns. So, before you get too comfy, take a second to like the video and subscribe if these historical mix-ups are making you feel smarter than 16th century explorers. Maybe leave a comment telling me what modern food you'd mistake for magic. Personally, I once thought dragon fruit was from another planet. Now, dim the lights, maybe imagine the distant howl of a howler monkey or just your neighbor's dog, and let us dive into the sesame misunderstandings of the Maya. Your armor is sweating in the tropical heat as you watch the shaman grind sesame seeds in a stone metate. The conquistador, Captain Diego, clutches his cross. See, they're mixing devil's seeds with blood. Wait, no, those are just drops of annatto dye, and the sesame is being ground with cocoa. You roll your eyes behind his back. Spanish explorers had a real talent for turning snacks into satanic rituals. The Maya used sesame, likely introduced via trade with Central America, in both food and rituals by the 15th century. Spanish friars documented seeds like tiny pearls being used in ceremonies, though they probably mistook sesame for native plants. One friar wrote that Maya priests fed magic beans to captives to summon spirits, but modern archaeologists think they were just serving sesame corn porridge. Did you know some Maya jars have residue that tests positive for sesame and human saliva? No, they weren't eating people, probably just sharing a communal bowl of sesame paste. Also, Maya hieroglyphs include a symbol that might represent sesame, though scholars argue over whether it's a seed or a type of bead. Imagine a museum plaque that says, "This symbol means sesame," maybe. Historians argue about whether the Maya considered sesame sacred or just tasty. Some point to its presence in royal tombs as proof of divinity, while others say it was just a luxury food. There's even a debate about how sesame arrived in the Americas. Did Polynesian sailors bring it across the Pacific, or did Spanish ships accidentally introduce it? The answer is as fuzzy as a conquistador's understanding of local customs. As the shaman sprinkles sesame over the altar, Captain Diego gasps and makes the sign of the cross. "I'll report this to the Pope," he declares, scribbling in his journal. Saw natives worshipping tiny brown beans. Must be the work of Satan. You peek over his shoulder, tempted to add, or maybe they just like sesame on their tacos. Wait, hear that? It's the sound of approaching Spanish soldiers, shouting about magic beans and heathen rituals. Time to sneak away before Diego decides to burn the sesame supply as witchcraft. In the next section, we'll dust off those sandals and head to the Ottoman Empire, where royal chefs are about to hide sesame in wedding desserts. Spoiler alert, it involves so much sugar, even the Sultan's dentist would cringe. Stay relaxed, or just keep pretending you're a Maya chef rolling your eyes at confused explorers. It's bedtime, after all. Hey guys, tonight we're trading those Maya bark sandals for a pair of embroidered Ottoman court slippers. Watch your step on the marble floors, they're polished so smooth you might slide into a palace guard carrying a tray of, wait, is that sesame studded dessert? Picture this, it's 1550 AD, and you're crouched behind a gilded screen in the Topkapi Palace kitchen, watching as a chef with a turban as tall as a minaret sprinkles something tiny into a mountain of sugar. The air smells like rosewater, ground pistachios, and, is that our old friend Sesame? Shh, don't let the Sultan's mother see, she thinks Sesame is too peasant for royal weddings. So, before you sink into your pillow, take a second to like the video and subscribe if these palace secrets are making your bedtime feel extra fancy. Maybe leave a comment telling me what food your family hides in special recipes. I'm guessing someone's grandma has a secret spice drawer. Now, dim the lights, maybe imagine the distant call to prayer or just your neighbor's alarm clock, and let us step into the sneaky world of Ottoman wedding desserts. Your hands are shaking as you hold a silver tray for Chef Mustafa, the Sultan's head confectioner. He's muttering under his breath in Turkish, the Valide Sultan says no sesame, but the bride loves it. We'll hide it in the filling, like a secret message. You watch as he layers filo pastry with a mixture of ground walnuts, honey, and a healthy dose of toasted sesame seeds, ground so fine they're almost invisible. Don't tell anyone, he winks, or we'll both be feeding the palace peacocks. Ottoman imperial weddings were famous for their over-the-top desserts, and sesame often sneaked in despite royal pretensions. Records from the 16th century mention honeyed pastries with hidden sesame served at the wedding of Suleiman the Magnificent's daughter. Chefs used sesame in fillings, coatings, and even as a secret ingredient in sherbets, believing it brought good luck, though nobles would be turned up their noses if they knew. Did you know Ottoman chefs had a code word for sesame in royal recipes? They called it golden dust to make it sound fancier. Also, during wedding feasts, sesame was sometimes mixed with ground pearls. Yes, actual pearls, thought to symbolize purity. Imagine biting into a dessert and crunching on a precious gem. Talk about an expensive surprise. Historians argue about why sesame had a low status in Ottoman high society. Some say it was associated with peasant food, while others claim it was because sesame oil was used for lamps, not just cooking. There's even a debate about whether the hidden sesame trend was a chef's rebellion or a genuine attempt to sneak nutrition into sugar bombs. One scholar insists it was all about symbolism, sesame's tiny seeds representing fertility, but most just think it tasted good. As Chef Mustafa places the last layer of filo, he sprinkles rosewater scented with, wait, is that more sesame? The bride can never have too much, he chuckles, drizzling molten honey over the pastry. You sneak a peek at the dining hall, where the Sultan's mother is inspecting the dessert table like a hawk. Good thing she can't smell the sesame through all that rosewater. Wait, hear that? It's the sound of the wedding procession approaching, mixed with the clatter of silver trays. Chef Mustafa shoves you toward the serving door. Go, carry this baklava like it's made of gold. And remember, silence is sweeter than sesame. In the next section, we'll tiptoe out of the palace and into a dusty library, where medieval cookbook mysteries await. Spoiler alert, we're about to find a missing page from the first sesame dessert guide, and it might just reveal whether ancient chefs preferred their seeds sweet or savory. Stay relaxed, or just keep pretending you're an Ottoman servant avoiding the Sultan's mother. It's bedtime, after all. Hey guys, tonight we're trading those Ottoman court slippers for a pair of felted library clogs. Careful where you step, the floor is sticky with candle wax and, is that mouse poop or sesame crumbs. Picture this, it's 1475 AD, and you're crouched in a drafty medieval library, brushing away centuries of dust from a leather-bound manuscript. The air smells like mold, goatskin parchment, and something faintly nutty. Wait, no, that's just your imagination craving dessert again. So, before you get too comfy, take a second to like the video and subscribe if these cookbook mysteries are giving you Indiana Jones vibes but with less snakes, more old cheese. Maybe leave a comment telling me what book you'd want to find in a dusty library. I'm voting for a lost pizza recipe from ancient Rome. Now, dim the lights, maybe imagine the scratch of a quill pen or just your ceiling fan, and let's dive into the mystery of the missing Sesame cookbook pages. Your fingers are black from ink as you flip through the brittle pages of Liber de Coquina, the Book of Cookery, a 14th century Italian cookbook. Most recipes are for meat pies and stews, but wait, page 72 is torn out, leaving only a ragged edge. The monk who copied this manuscript scribbled in the margin, "Here lies the secret of sesame sweets, lost to greedy rats." Or maybe he just ate the page, hard to tell with medieval humor. Medieval cookbooks like Liber de Coquina rarely mentioned sesame desserts, but scholars know they existed. A surviving 13th century French manuscript, Le Ménagier de Paris, has a vague recipe for sesame paste with honey, but it's as detailed as add water, stir, hope for the best. The first known cookbook dedicated to sweets, Forme of Curry, mentions sesame only in passing, leading historians to wonder, where are the missing recipes? Did you know some medieval cookbooks had secret codes? One manuscript uses black seeds to refer to sesame, maybe to hide recipes from rival chefs. Also, in the Forme of Curry, there's a recipe for sesame pottage that includes eel. Yes, eel mixed with sesame and honey. Imagine ordering that at a medieval restaurant. "I'll have the sesame eel special, please, hold the bones." Historians argue about why sesame dessert recipes are so scarce. Some say sweets were considered frivolous, unworthy of written records, while others claim chefs guarded them like state secrets. There's even a debate about the torn page in Liber de Coquina. Was it eaten by rats, as the margin says, or did a greedy baker rip it out to protect his trade secrets? One scholar suggests the missing page held a recipe for sesame marzipan, but others think that's just wishful thinking. As you squint at the faded ink, a stray beam of moonlight reveals a faint outline on the torn page, maybe a drawing of a sesame grinder or just a smudge from a long ago snack. You imagine the medieval monk who wrote this manuscript, sneaking bites of sesame candy while copying recipes, accidentally dropping crumbs on the page, then tearing it out to hide the evidence. Wait, hear that? It's the sound of the library cat batting at a mouse, maybe the same one that ate the sesame page. You close the manuscript carefully, vowing to return with a magnifying glass and a snack of your own. In the next section, we'll leave the library and head to the Americas, where sesame becomes a cash crop during colonial times. Spoiler alert, it involves enslaved Africans, greedy plantation owners, and a whole lot of irony. Sesame, once a luxury, becomes a symbol of exploitation. But don't worry, we'll keep it gentle, like a lullaby with a bittersweet ending. Stay relaxed, or just keep pretending you're a medieval monk hiding cookie crumbs. It's bedtime, after all. Hey guys, tonight we're trading those medieval library clogs for a pair of beat-up leather plantation boots. Watch your step, the mud here is as sticky as the sugarcane sap we're about to replace with sesame. Picture this, it's 1750 AD, and you're standing in a sun-baked field in Jamaica, wiping sweat from your brow as overseers shout, "Plant those sesame seeds straight. This isn't art, it's cash crop." Spoiler alert, Europeans are about to turn our favorite sleepy seed into a colonial cash machine, and enslaved Africans are about to show them how it's really done. So, before you get too cozy, take a second to like the video and subscribe if these colonial deeders are helping you appreciate modern sesame seeds. Maybe leave a comment telling me what food you'd grow if you had a tiny garden. I'm torn between tomatoes and, well, sesame, obviously. Now, dim the lights, maybe imagine the rustle of sugarcane leaves or just your bed sheet, and let us step into the sesame revolution of the Americas. Your hands are blistered from digging rows in the red clay. The overseer waves a pamphlet. King George says sesame oil will replace olive oil. It grows in this heat, unlike those fussy European olives. You bite your tongue. You know from home back in West Africa that sesame is more than just oil, it's snacks, medicine, even a way to tell time by its blooming flowers. But here, it's just a number in a ledger. European colonizers introduced sesame to the Americas in the 16th century, hoping it would thrive in tropical climates. By the 18th century, plantations in Jamaica, Haiti, and the Carolinas grew sesame as a cash crop, exporting oil to Europe. Enslaved Africans, who had centuries of sesame knowledge, were the real experts, but their contributions were rarely recorded, like a recipe without credit to the chef. Did you know enslaved Africans used sesame to make benny wafers, a crispy snack similar to modern lace cookies? They mixed sesame with molasses, a byproduct of sugar production, and baked them on hot stones, turning a colonial cash crop into a piece of home. Also, sesame was used in voodoo rituals, hidden in dolls or sprinkled around cabins for protection. Talk about turning a plant into a shield. Historians argue about how successful sesame was as a colonial cash crop. Some say it thrived, replacing cotton in some areas, while others claim it never matched sugar or tobacco's profits. There's even a debate about whether European demand for sesame oil was real or a marketing ploy, like today's superfood trends. One scholar claims sesame saved some plantations from bankruptcy, but others call that sesame hype. As you plant the last seed, an older enslaved woman named Mama Ya slips you a tiny pouch. Grind these with molasses when you're hungry. Don't let the overseer see. He thinks sesame is only for oil. You nod, feeling the seed's rough texture through the cloth. Later, in the dark of your cabin, you grind them between two stones, mixing in stolen molasses. The sweet, nutty smell reminds you of home, far across the ocean. Wait, hear that? It's the sound of the overseer's whip cracking. No, just a branch hitting your window. Phew. You wrap the sesame paste in a leaf, vowing to keep this little piece of culture alive, even in the heart of a colonial plantation. In the next section, we'll fast forward to modern times, where scientists are recreating ancient sesame desserts in labs. Spoiler alert, they're using 3D printers and DNA analysis, which is way fancier than Mama Ya's stone grinder. Stay relaxed, or just keep pretending you're a sesame smuggler in colonial Jamaica. It's bedtime, after all. Hey guys, tonight we're trading those beat-up plantation boots for a pair of squeaky clean lab slippers. Try not to trip over the pipettes, because the modern science lab we're entering is filled with more beakers than a medieval alchemist's den. Picture this, it's 2023 AD, and you're standing in a white-tiled room at Cambridge University, watching as a scientist in a lab coat sprinkles something tiny into a 3D printer. The air smells like toasted sesame. Wait, no, that's the ancient oven replica across the room, baking something that looks suspiciously like a Han Dynasty sesame cake. So, before you get too comfy, take a second to like the video and subscribe if these sciencey history deeters are making your brain feel gently stimulated. Maybe leave a comment telling me what ancient food you'd want scientists to recreate. I'm personally campaigning for Roman sesame cookies with a side of ancient Egyptian toothache paste. Kidding, maybe. Now, dim the lights, maybe imagine the hum of lab equipment or just your fridge, and let us step into the world of modern sesame dessert rediscoveries. Your goggles fog up as you peer into a mass spectrometer, which is analyzing crumbs from a 2,000-year-old Roman pottery shard. The scientist, Dr. Lizzie Williams, points to a graph. See this peak? It's trigonelline, a compound in toasted sesame. That means the Romans definitely baked these seeds, not just used them for oil. You nod, trying to look smart, but mostly thinking about how this machine can smell history. Modern scientists use techniques like mass spectrometry and DNA analysis to recreate ancient sesame desserts. In 2021, a team at the University of Copenhagen recreated a Persian halva from 9th century Baghdad, using chemical residues found in ceramic bowls. They even matched the rosewater scent by analyzing ancient perfume recipes. Talk about a high-tech bake-off. Did you know scientists have 3D printed a sesame wafer based on a Roman recipe? The printer used a paste made from ground sesame, honey, and spelt flour, then baked it with a laser. The result: a crispy snack that looked like a modern kale chip, but tasted like history. Also, some labs are growing ancient sesame varieties from seeds found in archaeological sites. Imagine a garden where every plant is a time capsule. Historians and scientists argue about how accurate these recreations really are. Some say using modern equipment cheats, while others insist it's the only way to test theories. There's even a debate about whether ancient ovens reached the same temperatures as modern ones. Did Roman sesame cookies bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 500 degrees Fahrenheit? The answer is as hotly contested as a fresh batch of cookies. As Dr. Williams hands you a piece of recreated Han Dynasty sesame cake, you notice it's denser than expected, with a hint of salt that cuts the sweetness. We found traces of sea salt in the oven ruins, she explains, so we added a pinch. The ancient Chinese might have used it to balance the honey. You take a bite, and sesame seeds crunch between your teeth for a moment. It's like tasting history itself. Wait, hear that? It's the beep of the lab's autoclave, mixing with the soft hum of the air conditioner. Dr. Williams smiles. Time to wrap up. We're working on a Maya sesame cocoa paste next. Want to be our taste tester? You nod, already dreaming of ancient desserts. But now, it's time to leave the lab behind. Let us ease into that, shall we? The hum of the lab equipment fades into the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. That taste of ancient sesame lingers softly on your tongue, a sweet reminder that history isn't just dusty books and old ruins. It's also the flavors that have traveled across millennia, from Roman ovens to modern labs. You're lying here now, wrapped in your own little time capsule of blankets, with the scent of imaginary sesame cakes still floating in the air. The stories of traders, monks, chefs, and scientists have woven together like threads in a Silk Road carpet, each thread a tiny seed of knowledge that grew into something bigger. No need to stay awake for the next chapter. Your mind is already drifting, carried by the gentle current of history. Maybe you'll dream of baking sesame cakes in a Han Dynasty kitchen, or hiding seeds in a Venetian cargo ship, or even watching a 3D printer create a snack from the past. Sleep comes easily now, as the stories settle into the quiet corners of your mind. The world outside fades, and all that remains is the soft glow of dimmed lights and the peaceful thought that even the smallest seeds can carry the weight of history, and maybe, just maybe, help you drift off to a very sweet sleep.